My name is NonStopAntonio, and we are back with Titans Season 4, Episode 7 and 8. The season is finally back, and they dropped 2 episodes, so we gotta talk about it. We're gonna be reviewing it and breaking down each episode as we go through it. So let's jump into Episode 7 and 8 of Titans Season 4. Welcome to NonStopAntonio, where I talk about everything nerdy. I love Marvel, DC, and anime, and if you do too, I hope you enjoy this video. So they brought us back in an interesting way. The Titans get put back in the temple with all the cultists gone. However, it doesn't really make much sense because I totally thought that Sebastian sent them to another reality and the whole plot was going to be Gar trying to bring them back. However, that wasn't the case at all. It was Gar that transported them into the Death Realm, and then they don't really explain it. I couldn't find any comic book references of the Death Realm, and that's about it. And we come back and Jinx is actually dead, where no one actually mourns her death, where you would think that Dick would have mourned her death because he knew her and they had a thing in the past. But at least Rachel sent her soul off to go be free, I guess, and that she could live in the afterlife. However, I'm kind of annoyed that they gave her a really nice suit just to kill her off really quickly. Like, she barely got any screen time with the suit and then she died. So unless she's coming back later in the season, because they did hint when we first met her that she has died before, that would make more sense, because why would you spend all this money on a suit just for her not to come back? But of course, it is typical Lex Luthor to have a contingency plan for Mother Mayhem by putting it in the temple ground. I'm surprised no one noticed happened. However, hey, at least Superboy was able to find it and gives it to Dick Grayson because it's meant for one of the world's greatest detectives. But of course, Dick and Kory go to deal with the prophecy that Lex left them to try to figure out what was going on and to decipher the ancient Tamaranian wording that's in it. However, there's other plans for Superboy, where he goes to a facility where he runs into Mercy Graves, who we haven't seen since season 2, where she turned Superboy into a weapon and made Gar a savage tiger and set him loose in a carnival, which I'm honestly surprised to see Connor working with her, because if after everything that happened, you would really think that he wouldn't even do that and he'd probably attack her or throw her in jail. However, something has happened to him, so he's turning more into Lex every time we see him. And the fact that Mercy Graves says that he probably could take on both Mother Mayhem and Sebastian Blood alone makes no sense because of magic, and that Superman's weakness is magic, and so is Superboy. So I'm kind of wondering what they're setting up there, because is she trying to set him up to fail and die? Or does she actually think he has a chance? Plus, they're setting up him taking over LexCorp so he can be the new Lex Luthor in a sense. And I just hope to see Superman so he can snap Connor out of this Lex Luthor persona. Now, the stuff with Dick and Kory going to get the prophecy translated was so freaking fast. Like, they just blew through that and found the location instantly. Because after they talk to Roberta, where she does reference Starfire's orange fire from the comics, when Starfire shows her blue flame, she's like, oh, I thought it would be orange. Which is a reference to her being orange in the comics. Probably her orange skin and her orange flame. Plus, the prophecy states that Starfire can stop it from happening. However, she would have to use all her power. It would be the key to winning. However, it will end you as you are now. I don't think means she's gonna die. I think it means that she's gonna change, which could possibly mean she gets her orange skin. And I think that's what's gonna happen. She's gonna turn orange, or she's maybe gonna be becoming more fire-based powers because of how she is in the comics. I don't think they're going to kill her off. I feel like the prophecy is very misleading in a sense where it sounds like she might die. But let me know what you think. Do you think Starfire is going to die, or do you think it's hinting at something else happening? It was nice to see Tim and Dick be detectives, even though they really rushed through it. It was cool to see both of them trying to figure out the cipher and putting it into their computer. But again, it went by way too quickly where they found the approximate location of the horn, because it kind of just pushed us to that plot. They really rushed through it just for them to go into Caul's Folly and get put into this other reality. Because I like how they had Tim and Bernard following behind them, then Dick, Kory, and Rachel just disappear on the bus. Which the only reason they can enter is because of Rachel. Because you have to have the blood of Trigon in you to enter. Kind of makes sense where, like, you would think that if they drove through it, that the bus would go straight through and continue down the road, where Rachel would just pop out of the RV and disappear from reality. But instead, because she was in the RV, it took everything around her with her. And I guess that's how it works. They never really explained it. There's a lot of stuff they left out without explaining it properly. And I totally thought when Rachel and Starfire got drugged, that it was the town knowing that they weren't Trigon supporters, trying to kidnap them and, do whatever they're going to want to do with them. But it turns out that the only reason they got drugged was because you had the 2 liberators during the town who were trying to figure out why they were there, and that they weren't going to let them bring Trigon back because the cult took over the town and took over the people, and they didn't want that happening because they're the only 2 that are rebelling against it. And I thought it was interesting that they had a drug that only worked on people with alien blood, where I guess technically Rachel's an alien because Trigon isn't human, and I guess that's how they're explaining it here. But it made sense for Starfire because she's Tamaranian. There's another weird thing they never answered, where they have a lot of inconsistencies in this show. Even though I'm enjoying it and I think it's an enjoyable show to watch, there's still just a lot of inconsistencies during it. And this is also where we find out that they think that Dick is Sebastian Blood. He is the son of Trigon. But then they realize, oh shit, if he's not, that means the sheriff's gonna kill him because the sheriff is the protector. Which I don't think they got to that point, because when Dick goes to investigate and goes looting through the sheriff's office, and he gets his ass beat by 3 officers, where you'd think, you know, Nightwing would have more skill fighting than 3 random officers. Which I was kind of annoyed by, but I guess they just wanted to get him captured. But still, I don't think Nightwing should be able to get taken down by 3 dudes. Maybe have a little bit more, because Batman and Nightwing have easily taken on multiple people at a time and not fallen. And technically, he wasn't wearing his armor, but still. And then you have Mother Mayhem and Brother Blood showing up, which had united all their followers. So I guess they got into town right before Dick went to the sheriff's office and told them who they were. Then they're like, oh yeah, so that guy is not the son of Trigon. You're the son of Trigon. And then took him out. I still enjoy this show. I just feel like there's stuff that they either leave out or don't explain very well. Like, I don't think a lot of this stuff is gonna get explained later on because of how they portrayed this episode. I feel like that's it. We're done. We're moving on to the next plot now. Because in episode 8 is when we deal with the town, and then they leave the town and the town comes back, which just kind of pushes the story along for where it's going to go. And I saw someone say this felt like filler. I kind of agree. I feel like it was filler. Like, there was stuff that moved the plot along, but then there's a lot of unnecessary jargon in all of it that didn't really make much sense, especially in episode 8, where the whole Tim and Bernard storyline didn't feel needed. It was just kind of there. Like, the only part of their story that made sense to have in there with the relationship developing, but the whole point of investigating the radio tower didn't make much sense. But before I get too far into it, let's start at the beginning of the episode and move down. Like, the one thing I had a problem with this episode is, why did they keep Kory and Dick alive? Why not just kill them? They're enemies, they're trying to stop you, and you let them live so you can brainwash them, but because they're heroes, there's a good chance they're gonna break out of that brainwashing. So the bad guys pretty much just set themselves up for failure. I don't get it. And that's one of my biggest problems, is setting up like plot consistencies that would easily be defeated if the villains were idiots. And also, because the episode name was titled Dick and Kory and Ted and Carol, I totally thought it was gonna be 2 separate groups of people, not Dick and Kory being named Ted and Carol in this reality when they're being brainwashed. Like, I didn't see that coming. That was an interesting twist. And finding out that they had receivers planted in them was kind of interesting. I don't know how that really works. Again, probably just magic. However, the 2 bite marks on their neck was definitely from a snake, just like how Mother Mayhem had been summoning those snakes prior in the earlier episode. Part of the episode is also like where we learn that the waitress and her father are liberators who are also deaf, which doesn't really make much sense because of the way they talk and the way they portray themselves. They don't seem deaf at all. And they're just talking perfectly fine, normal. They're understanding what everyone's saying, no matter what they're saying. And it's just really weird. And then at the end of the episode, they hear William's music that he's playing over the radio. And I'm like, if they're deaf, how can they hear that? Unless the way they're doing it, again, explainer is magic. That's always like the easiest explainer in shows. If they don't explain it properly, magic. It's all because of magic. The waitress and her father just seemed like a plot device to just push the story along, to just give an explainer to our main characters so that they knew what was going on and weren't confused as shit. But at least with all the brainwashing stuff, we did get a comic book reference during this episode, which was Constantine. Because Bruce Wayne came up with a plan that if him and Constantine ever got into a fight, if Constantine tries to brainwash him or make him forget who he has a way to remember. Because Bruce's mission is the most important thing to him, which Nightwing references again. And I like how Starfire was pretty much saying that he has daddy issues, that he was so obsessed with the mission still. But hey, it did lead to us getting some references to past seasons, which was nice, because they talk about their most painful memories being a way to remember who they were. So we get a call back to Dick's parents dying during the circus, call back to him being Brutal Robin in the season 1, which again, I was never a big fan of, but hey, we got Brutal Robin and him and Kory getting together for the first time. We also see Hank's death again. We also see Dick dying, which the one thing I don't understand they didn't show is, even though Dick died, why didn't anyone show Donna's death? Like, she did come back, but so did Dick. Why didn't we see Donna's death in season 2? I feel like that was something they should have placed back in. I mean, that was a little thing to complain about. That was just me being nitpicky, but still, I think it would have been cool to get those references. And I'm honestly shocked that Kory was the one that got sucked in to the Carol persona because of the fact that she's an alien, and you think her body chemistry would work a little differently and be less susceptible to this brainwashing. Now, Rachel's part of the episode was the most significant through both parts because she is the daughter of Trigon, and everything really ties back to her, just like how her and Sebastian are tied together. And I thought it was interesting that she was tied up in the church, and that Mother Mayhem was calling her a heretic because she's claiming to be the daughter of Trigon. She is the daughter of Trigon, and turning the whole town against her. Except it was cool to see Sebastian pulling that horn out of an altar of lava, which, yeah, that was pretty freaking intense. That altar was just filled with lava, which means if Dick did go to get it, he wouldn't have been able to do it unless Rachel was with him, and she probably would have been able to pull it out of there. But I thought it was interesting that Sebastian thought he could kill Rachel and that he was trying to take out his weakness. So he tries to cut her, and then he gets cut himself, which means they're more connected than anyone thinks. And I definitely believe if those officers tried to kill Rachel, they would have killed Sebastian, and everyone would have been freaking the hell out. And I liked Rachel trying to connect with Sebastian, being like, you're being used by Mother Mayhem. My mother also used me to get to Trigon. We're only here for them to see Trigon again. They don't care about us otherwise. We're just a tool to them. I like how she's trying to connect with him, showing that they're both similar. They were both pretty much used to bring Trigon back. However, Rachel was actually able to defeat her father, unlike Sebastian, who's not going to want to defeat him and is going to want him to come rule over Earth. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because Rachel is definitely the other key to defeating Trigon when he does return, and if he does return. I'm hoping they bring him back for like the final 2 episodes, where instead of them beating him in a flash, like in the first well, I guess the second season, they actually have a proper fight defeating Trigon. I think that would be pretty cool if that's how the season ends. Then you have Dick saving Rachel in the end after taking on a bunch of officers themselves, which, there we go. He had an issue taking down 3 in the last episode, but he was able to take down a whole freaking church full of them. Little plot inconsistencies where he's like, why did he lose to 3 of them when he was able to take down more later on? Just little weird things that kind of bugged me, especially for Nightwing. And on top of everything, before Rachel and Dick go to the radio tower, and we have all the stuff going on with Tim Bernard, like I said earlier, it seemed kind of pointless. Like, I don't understand why they had that in the episode, because they didn't do anything. They went to the radio tower. They were able to sense Starfire's energy. They found William, who told them that he could sense his family, knowing that they're still alive out there, which gave Bernard the idea that, oh, there's probably another dimension outside this reality in this location, really setting up that they're still there, but they're kind of separated from the reality that they're currently in. This is where it doesn't make any sense, where when William plays music, his father can hear it for some reason, but him playing music really didn't do anything. Played music, it didn't affect anything that had to do in the other realm. The people who did everything were Dick and Rachel, where they go and storm the radio tower. Dick gets attacked, almost turns into Ted. He gets brought back by being reminded by Rachel who she is and how they met in season 1, which was a nice callback to the first season. And then them finding the room with the guy hooked up to all the blood tubes that went into the radios, which I don't understand where the blood was going to. I'm guessing it was going to maybe an altar where Trigon's gonna get brought through, or somehow the blood was the one transmitting the music and the way they were out of the realm, because when they broke it, they put the reality back together, and they were now no longer outside reality. I was kind of confused by that part, where they didn't really explain anything during that. They just broke it, and then they were back in the main reality. Kory and Dick were back to their regular Kory and Dick personas. Interesting enough, but again, I feel like they push the plot along without explaining a lot, and it bothers the shit out of me, because I feel like they introduce these interesting concepts, but then don't follow through. And then the ending for this episode was Connor being with Sebastian, which I'm pretty sure is just Connor working with Sebastian to try to betray him later. However, it could be, if you can't beat him, join him kind of mentality. Because he says that he wants to change the world. So I'm kind of interested in seeing what's going on, and how the rest of the team is going to deal with him when they find out that Connor is working with Sebastian. Overall, I feel like these 2 episodes were really setting up what's to come, where again, I feel like there was a little bit too much of some stuff where they probably could have skipped some of the stuff in the town with Dick and Kory, where the plot moved really slowly, but also should have added a little bit more to them investigating the prophecy and where it was supposed to go, rather than getting the book, going to get it transcribed, then finding the approximate location, and then ending up in the town. Like, that happened boom, 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 right after one another, and I feel like they probably could have added a little bit more to smooth out that plot line a little bit more, rather than just rushing through it. Instead of, like, having all that Tim and Bernard stuff that wasn't the relationship aspect of their story, them investigating the radio tower, they honestly just could have cut that completely. I don't think they needed it. I think maybe what they should have done is Tim and Bernard find the radio tower, find William, find out about the reality, and then the reality snaps back, and that's when they run into the rest of the Titans, rather than them really doing nothing and then the Titans running into them again. That's just my opinion. I still enjoy the show nonetheless. Like, I'm still enjoying seeing them on the screen. I still like the actors. I like the characters. It's just the story sometimes feels a little bit weird. It feels like they know what they're writing, and then it goes away. And then they know what they're writing, and then it goes away. Let me know what you thought about these 2 episodes. Let me know what you thought about the stories. Did you agree with some of my points? Do you disagree with some of my points? And what do you think's really going on right now? I hope you enjoyed my Titans breakdown. I am looking forward to next week, where we have Gar's storyline, which I think is the crossover with Stargirl, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you'll stay up to date with all my Titans videos, my Flash videos, my Superman videos, and when Doom Patrol comes back, my Doom Patrol videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.